Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with me again for another edition of What's on the Wall. So for today, we're just looking at this buggy. This is the Fighter RX Memorial Buggy from Tamiya. So when this one came out, it was a little controversial, and we'll get into that in a moment. So this was released or announced for release in January of 2021. It was released under part number 47460, and this was the 30-year anniversary edition of the DT1 chassis. Now, when I said it was controversial, some people were a little upset that the 30-year anniversary edition did not come out on the Rookie Rabbit livery of the car, because that was the first kit released on the DT01 chassis, and that was on their part number 57501, and it came out in 1991. So 30 years later, they made this, which the Fighter Buggy RX didn't come out until 1996 under part number 58184. So why they chose to use the Fighter Buggy livery over the Rookie Rabbit livery, who knows? I'm on both sides of the fence with it. I love the black edition, and I think the black edition goes really, really well with that Fighter Buggy RX graphics. You know, being able to do the chrome graphics with the stars and the RX and all that stuff probably came out a little bit better than trying to do the Rookie Rabbit. Which, you know, basically was just bright colors and a little bouncy rabbit guy on there. So I kind of see why they went this way with the design, you know, trying to make it special and, you know, look cool and mean, but it was a little weird. Anyway, there were two other kits that came out on the DT01 chassis, which is the Mad Bull, which is 58205, and that came out in 97. So shortly after the RX Memorial did. And then there was the Mad Fighter, which has a more traditional buggy shell to it and not kind of the space age shells that the Rookie Rabbit and the Fighter RX have. It's a little bit more of a traditional look, and that was 58275, and that came out in 2011. Now, some of them have been re-released in between all those. You know, these are just the release dates. So there's some interesting things about this buggy, and, you know, I think some people love it or hate it for them. So one thing is kind of the space age looking body. I think some people are kind of thrown off about that. So one of the other things is kind of the interesting battery position of this. It sits behind the shock towers, kind of on about a 45-degree angle backwards, and you have to pull the body off, pull this pin, and slide the battery in and out. So it's not like long ways or flat crossways like a normal Tamiya buggy is. You know, they changed it up and stuck it way back here, which is great. It gives it decent rear end traction and really doesn't take away from the front end traction. But it just, I think most people with hard bodies, you know, want to leave the hard body on there and then get the battery somewhere else. One of the other issues that this buggy was plagued with was the steering. The way this, you know, drop link down to the center, you know, pivot and then out here, it caused a lot of play. Now, the majority, this play is just in the linkages and ball cups and everything there, the servo saver and all. I've already resolved a lot of the steering slop. It was about twice that bad. Basically, this little steering link here, because it's a bent rod link, because it has to step down and all that stuff, there is a lot of excessive play in there. And basically what you have to do is you have to put some heat shrink tubing on there to kind of lock that bar into place so it doesn't move up and down. Because what would happen before, when you turn this wheel, basically that bar would, you know, shove up and pull down in place and cause a lot more steering play. So that is one thing that has plagued these and was kind of a major complaint of a lot of people getting these, is just it was so much front end slop. Now, driving it, you don't really notice. There is a significant amount of bump steer. Well, not really bumps. It cambers out and toes in when you smash the suspension. Does it affect the driving? You know, probably only in the skilledest of hands. When you're out just running it around, you don't notice it. You know, it turns well, it drives well, it's really not affected. You know, gold wheels, who doesn't love gold wheels? I mean, they're just awesome looking. Overall, it's a pretty good little chassis. It has somewhat of a hopper rear end design to where it's like the Hornet, to where it does pivot side to side. Now, this one is not plagued with the chassis slap. There is actually a piece that they added into there that modifies the rear end to keep it from doing the chassis slap like the Hornet and the Lunchbox and all those have, but it still allows for that, you know, side to side pivot so you have full traction. Now, one awesome thing with this is there is actually oil dampened suspension on here versus, you know, a hopper where most hoppers are at least friction shock up front and some are still friction shock in the rear. The rear suspension actually works pretty well, even though the shocks are basically, you know, almost laid down. But the way it pivots and the spring rates on the shocks and everything, it actually works pretty well. It's a fun one to drive. The little driver guide is just a traditional guide that screws in through the top. The only difficult part about this kit is getting that steering as tight as you can. Now, you can upgrade the whole steering to turnbuckles and, you know, make it a whole lot better. I kind of like having the little plasticky, flimsy, floppy steering links up front, because if you do hit something, that link will bow and keep you from breaking anything. So it is kind of a very forgiving front end, and as far as that goes, but there is some, you know, slop to it, which, you know, it's a fun haver. This isn't a you know, in a competition race buggy. I'm not trying to dial out every bit of slop, but it does have a significant amount of slop in it when you get it. But those quick little fixes for the steering link definitely help out. Other than that, it's just a really fun little car. The rear ends are definitely tough. They will take a decent amount of power, but you know, again, it's just a fun haver. I'm not out trying to break a land speed record with it or anything. So right now, I think this is a sport tuned. And, you know, I don't take it out a whole lot. These Mylar decals will get scratched up fairly easily, so I don't run this one a lot. I do take it out occasionally and bounce around the yard just to have fun, but, you know, I have grasshoppers and hornets and all that stuff to, you know, run a little bit harder, and something that's not a very limited edition anniversary special. So this one is kind of a babied car in the collection. You know, it is a limited edition release. They only made it for the 1 year, and they're not going to make it again as far as I know. If they do, they'll probably change up the livery again and, you know, come out with the rookie rabbit, which, you know, I think people would buy the hell out of that. Anyway, guys, everybody out there, you guys be happy, be healthy, be safe. If you have any questions, hit me down in the comments. And if you guys aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get up to 2,000. I'd really appreciate it. But again, hope you liked it. Everybody have a good one. See ya.